What is up, kinfolk? Today we're going to be asking the question, is college worth it? The way I was raised, it wasn't if you were going to college, it was when and where. My mom has a master's degree. My sister's graduated from Pepperdine University. My brother's graduated from St. Mary's. My dad, he went back to school in his 50s, and I'm the dropout. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You don't want to go to college because you don't think it's for you. Well, yeah, fair enough. Do you have a better plan? And if the answer is no, well, that's not a very good plan, right? It's college or nothing. Well, go to college then, because nothing is a really bad plan.
So I understand the go to college as a plan, but even going to college as a plan isn't really a plan. Most colleges want you to declare as soon as you start your first year of college exactly what your intentions are. If you have no clue, you're spending your first year, kind of dabbling around and kind of just swimming aimlessly in a sea of just all of this. Because there's so many things. So you could take something like computer engineering. There is that, but then there's so many subsects of that. Like if you wanted to go into the medical field, if you want to go into AI, hardware, software development, like there's so many other aspects and realms in that. But if you have no clue whatsoever, you can potentially fail and flunk, take out loans, and never complete the task that you originally went to college to do, especially if you have no idea what you want to do.
One of the things I would recommend is choose as an alternative something equally or more difficult. And I would say to all of you, if you're ever facing a decision in your life, this is kind of a good rule of thumb, because you always have to ask yourself, is this not right for me, or am I just useless and lazy? Maybe you're not doing very well in your job, and so then you might wonder if your decision to find a new job is just an escape. But if the rule is you'll only escape to something equally or more difficult or more challenging, let's say, then you kind of check yourself against your own temptation.
I think that college can be difficult for people. If you're lazy, it's definitely going to be hard. And that's just going to be indicative of whether you go to college or not. Even when it comes to degrees now, we always hear the term underwater basket weaving. Some people go to college because that's what we're told to do. But then when we get there, they'll go for a major that isn't as, labor intensive. But that's also going to come out in the real world, because you're going to do just the bare minimum to get by. And if you're like that in general as a person, that's going to show up in your job. That's going to show up in a lot of other areas of your life.
When I went to college and university, a fairly high proportion of the classes were abysmally bad. They were taught by people who had no business whatsoever teaching anything to anyone. Even though they might have been credible researchers, they were terrible communicators.
YouTube helped me pass a lot of my classes that I had. I found myself learning a lot more from Khan Academy. Patrick JMT is another one to help me pass a lot of the calculus classes that I took. Just because you're knowledgeable about a subject does not equate you to being able to teach a subject. If you can break it down in a way that a 5-year-old or like a 6-year-old could understand it. And most teachers and most people, they're not that good at breaking something down to someone who literally has no concept of it. With the creation of YouTube and the creation of the internet, we have a lot of that stuff at our fingertips. We have access to people who have been working in industries, high levels. So why would I spend, close to $100,000 for 4 years of education when I could learn this stuff sometimes for free, and sometimes it's going to be a fraction of the cost, but at the end of the day, we do also pride the degree.
Even when the universities weren't corrupted to the degree they are now, if you wanted to go to university and get a good education, that was sort of on you. Use your head to find the elements of value. And I think that in most educational institutions, you can still do that, although it's not the case that you can do that at all of them.
That's also where I feel like a lot of people are kind of turned off by the idea of college, because they're like, oh, it's just cesspools of indoctrination. Depending on what major you're in, like you said, the humanities, probably the philosophy department, science to a certain extent is under attack. But there's only so much politically you could talk about, like, the derivative and the integral of an equation. You know what? I take it back. I did hear, I don't remember if there was an article or something, but something came out and they were talking about how mathematics is racist. So I guess you can't really like get away from this stuff completely.
And the other advantage to going to college is that you buy an identity. And student means I'm someone who's made the sacrifices necessary to allow myself the freedom to determine who I want to be through a period of study extending over about 4 years. It's not nothing to buy that identity, right? And to share it with other people. It gives you a walled garden to inhabit while you sort yourself out. And you deprive yourself of that at your peril.
Say what you want about college, but that identity that you buy still holds value. It fluctuates, right? Because a lot of college students will tell you when they graduate, they try to get a job, but the job is like, well, you don't have the experience. Where you have real world experience, they might take the person over you because they have the degree, but not the experience. But the flip side of that is that some people might want you because you have the experience, but you don't have the degree. Especially when it comes to tech jobs, it can go either way. Some people don't necessarily care about degrees, but they care about certifications. But there is that aspect of like buying an identity, it still has some place and some value today. Once you know what you're good at, then if you want to pursue a college education, I would say great. If you have intentions about being a certain thing in your life, make sure that you're working towards that, but always educate yourself, even when you've left school. Let me know what you think, kinfolk, in the comment section below. Do you think college is worth it? If not, what are some alternatives? If so, why do you think that college is important? But as always, kinfolk, you know I love you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.